Welcome back, folks, to What Matters Most on Rogers TV. We're here now with a segment on Crime Stoppers, and joining us is Sergeant Tammy Ward and Provincial President Ron Godet. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on in today.
Thank you for the invite.
Well, you guys provided some fascinating statistics, which we'll get into in a second. But I mean, the first thing that I made of note when you came in was how interesting, as a kid, and of course through as an adult, the Crime of the Week segments are on TV. And it was interesting to note on the statistics that several crimes have been solved as a direct result of those little pieces.
Yes.
And I mean, when you get up to a number of 40, it's been quite a long time. But to have 40 crimes directly solved by that is it's really neat. So tell me now, we want to get right into some of these stats as we pick through them, but for those people who are at home and who that's all they know about Crime Stoppers, what is the group, how big are they, and what's the future hold for the Crime Stoppers organization?
Crime Stoppers, first of all, is a community service awards program to obtain criminal information on crime, which, were it not for Crime Stoppers, that information would probably not be available.
Right.
Now, how big is Crime Stoppers? Crime Stoppers is not only in New Brunswick, it's throughout the world in 28 countries, and we have 36,000 members around the world, operating in 37 different languages, and a major crime, or a crime you solve, every 14 minutes with information that comes from Crime Stoppers 24 hours a day.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yes.
Every 14 minutes.
That's right.
Wow, and I look down at some of these numbers here that you see, and let's just pop off one of the big numbers. Drug seized wholesale value, $69 million over the course of the program, and this is of course founded in 1985. And tell us where exactly did this whole thing kick off? Where was where did the lightning strike in the first place?
Where it started? It started in 1976 in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
In 1976, Albuquerque, New Mexico had a population of 350,000, and it was not even safe to walk the street at night.
Right.
They used to be the third most difficult country to live with was Albuquerque, New Mexico, the city. It was terrible.
The crime rate was extremely high.
Was very, very high, you know.
And to extract information that's useful for the law enforcement agencies, and I think that's one of the key elements, is that you're not directly a law enforcement agency yourselves. You're the bridge or the conduit for the information that is fed back to, and the anonymity of the whole thing is what provided it. And based on what you described from the founding city, certainly something that would have been required at the time.
Well, what it was is an officer down there who was originally Canadian,
right?
Of course. He was really upset because it was a young gentleman who was murdered for absolutely no reason. Mm-hmm. It was a robbery in a convenience store, and the clerk had already given the money, and they just killed him anyways. So he was upset and had come up with this concept, approached the department and the local TV stations, and they did air it, and it solved it right away. And a part of his thing with his thinking was, there's so much apathy here. How can we address that and get people? And then from there, they saw the value in it. The police force kept doing it, and then it grew within the United States. It came to Canada first in Calgary, and then to New Brunswick in 85.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, to think that that's required, what with the threat of the criminal element in some of these communities, to be able to provide the service you do. And how most often do the tips come through? Is it still by phone? And I see there's a text outlet for this now. I'm sure there's an online service as well.
There's an online. I would say 50-50 between the telephone and the web tips. Sometimes a lot more web tips, because people can go on any time of the day at any place, and the tips go through a secure server. So when it goes to the secured server, the IP address is jumbled, and then the information is sent to Crime Stoppers through a special program called TipSoft.
Okay.
So Crime Stoppers, people are thinking, well, they could find my IP address, they'll know who I am. We never know who submits a tip. So the anonymity is the top priority. So if you do it via web, you're protected. If you call in, we don't ask your name, we don't ask your age, your gender, nothing. We just take the information. The information is taken by a tip operator, and the information is relayed to the law enforcement of jurisdiction, whether it's municipal police or DFO, DPS, and then they investigate, or they use the information for an investigation that's currently underway.
I still remember the gentleman in the Columbo-style rain jacket at the end of the bit going, "We only want your information, not your name." It's just buried
Paul
in my...
Boudreau,
Paul
probably.
Boudreau, that's right,
Yes,
that's right.
He
Wow.
he was around when I was a little girl.
Oh, really? Neat,
Yeah.
neat. Now, let's look at another statistic here, and maybe you guys can speak a little bit about it. Awards approved, that's a big one, and only in the month of December alone, $6,900, and that's within the province of New Brunswick, if I'm reading the statistics right?
Yeah, just in New Brunswick.
And overall, $880,000 since 1985. That's
Over
amazing.
30 years, that has been what's been approved to be paid out to people who have called the program and provided information on an investigation or an occurrence.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
Okay, so the local chapters, in order to pay that much money, they're going to have to sell a lot of hot dogs and coffee and so on. So it's very important for the public to know that the local chapter need a lot of support, not only financially, but,
Well,
With
and
volunteers.
That would be the follow-up question I had primed was where does such a large amount of money come from? And it's all fundraising done through things like you mentioned, hot dog sales and showing up at these
Hosting
community
events.
events.
Yeah. None of the money comes from the government. None of it comes from the policing agencies or law enforcement agencies. Every chapter in New Brunswick, and presently there's 20, they are responsible for paying tips that come from their own location. So it's through their awareness, be it selling plaques or hosting an event. The musical ride, for example, last year was around in a few places, and Crime Stoppers partnered with other charities to bring it throughout New Brunswick. That is where they create the funds to be able to pay out the tips. So they're always trying to get the community involved in events. A lot of our chapters, we've had volunteers who are aging because they believe in this, and they've been, a lot of them, 20, 25, 30 years, and they really need some young people to come in and help, because this is such a worthwhile program that many hands make light work, and when you only have a few trying to do a lot, it's very hard.
Yeah, and I think if someone was sitting home right now with some spare time on their hands and looking to volunteer, the best way to reach out to you would be through the number? Probably not. There'd be a better way to get a hold of you?
On our website, actually, at crimemb.ca, if you go on the Crime Stoppers website, there's a button that you press, and it tells you how to become a volunteer. And you can send us emails, and they'll be answered. And we could hook that person up with the contact for the local area. And of course, all our volunteers are screened,
yes,
so that the security background is always done, so that it keeps the integrity of the program.
So within our community in St. John, approximately how many volunteers would be involved with the organization?
Not enough.
St. John used to have they used to have about 18 to 20 people on their chapter. Mm-hmm. Not anymore, because those people are passed on to other people. Now in St. John right now, there are openings for new members. Anybody is welcome. And like Tammy mentioned, how to go about it. If they don't know how, they can call the police station if they want to. They can call this Roger Television. They wouldn't know what to give them.
So we'll get you in touch with you.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a way they can get a hold of us.
Yeah, and it's not a huge time commitment. Like with some people, they think, oh my gosh, I don't have that much time. With Crime Stoppers, it's a meeting once a month for an hour.
Right.
And then if they're doing a fundraising or an event, we were at the Sea Dogs game last week on the 10th, just as a promotion. So there might only be 2 or 3 events in the year where you're asked to give an hour or two. So it's not it's not hours and hours a week. I mean, you can put all the effort you want into it, but the expectation is just an hour a month, and then the possibility of a couple hours here and there throughout the year.
Now, time flies by very quickly on the show, and we only have time for one question left. So if you would do this for me, if someone was to witness a crime or have some information about a crime from the time they pick up the phone till they call you, walk us through the process. Like if I pick up the phone and I call the number, 1-800-222-TIPS, just like it's been since I was a kid. On your end, you pick up the phone, and what's the process from there?
The first thing they do is they speak with the tip operator. The first question that is asked is, what crime are you calling about? They give the nature of the offense, say a robbery. So then the operator would let them tell their story, what they saw, and then they would ask questions concerning that. Like, you mentioned a vehicle, what kind of vehicle, what color, description of the person. So they ask some specifics, and at the end of the phone call, they give the person a tipster number. So we don't take any name, not even an initial, to identify you. You're given a special number. You're the only person that will have this number, so that you can call us back in 2 months. We always say, give us 2 months so that it can be investigated. The police have time to report back, and the chapters, if it was, taken care of immediately, gives them time to do the reward,
Right.
to recommend the rewards at their chapter meetings once a month. So as soon as that information is done, we thank the tipster, we tell them to call us back, or via the web, we send back that message, and then the information within 5 minutes is sent to the police force or the law enforcement agency.
That fast, wow.
Yep, boom. And then there's a coordinator in all of the chapter areas for all of the different services, law enforcement. And then an investigation is launched, or if there's already a file open, then that information is given to that investigator. Then as soon as they do the investigation, a disposition sheet comes back to us saying information valid, 1 arrest, X amount of charges, and then that's where we get our stats from. We only get our stats from the bare bones of it.
Right.
1 arrest, 2 charges, property seized, drug seized, thank you, have a nice day.
Closed cases.
Yep. And then as soon as that's done, a recommendation would go before a chapter. The chapter would approve of an award. We have an award schedule, so different crimes all the way up to $2,000.
Right.
Minimum 100. And then it would be recommended at a meeting. The president or the treasurer of the chapter call us and say, at last night's meeting, we approved tip number XYZ, and then we make note. The next time the tipster calls in, arrangements are made where the money will be put for them, and they pick it up. So they're at no time are they ever identified.
Wow.
And it is important that the person that's going to call to have as much information as possible to pass on, instead of, and if you call and say, my name is Ron Godin,
Yeah.
that's the end of the call.
Right.
Because we don't want to know who you are.
Someone might do that
Very
just out
important.
of habit.
Voilà,
Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we cannot, and this is we do get these phone calls. If somebody is a victim, they can't call us to report the crime, because
Right.
it has to be reported to the police
Right.
or to whatever jurisdiction or agency it should be reported to.
It's not really a tip.
No,
If
because
it happened to them.
Because
Right.
if it happened to them and they're giving us information on it anonymously, then there's nothing to send the police, because there is no occurrence on record, and there's nobody to testify that that ever happened.
Right.
So you need, if you are a victim, you need to report it through the proper channels, as well as with tax frauds, welfare, things of that nature. There are toll-free numbers.
Right.
And we always, if somebody calls us instead of calling, which is fine because we're the first number they think of, and
Right.
that's wonderful, we will give them, or we can even connect them to the other 1-800 number where they can give that information for taxes and welfare.
That's great.
And 35 to 38% of the people that call do not want a reward.
No.
Right, which is great.
And
Yes.
we pay tips anywhere in the province, anywhere in Canada or the United States, or any of the 28 countries we're involved with.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
Well, I've yet to have a topic on the show that I didn't wish I had more time for.
I'll come back.
Well, and
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
that's always my build-up. We'll have to have you back in for a little bit more time, because there's so
Definitely.
much more we could explore here. I mean, we didn't get halfway through the statistics, and I think they can find this sort of thing on the website. Is this available
Yes.
for public
Yeah.
consumption? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've been with Provincial President Ron Gaudette and Sergeant Tammy Ward of Crime Stoppers. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming in and spending some time with us this
Very
evening.
welcome.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this break. You're watching What Matters Most on Rogers TV.